Let me tell you, this is a weird one. It's not every day I uncover a fake waitress leading an Astroturf organization lobbying to lower the minimum wage. Like I said, it's weird. Let's start from the beginning. There's a bill in Arizona to pay waiters and waitresses below the minimum wage, SCR 1040. It's being pushed by the Arizona Restaurant Association, because if they can pay people less, they can keep the money. It's not hard to understand. At a hearing on the bill in front of the Arizona Commerce Committee, a group called Save Our Tips showed up. They purported to be waiters and waitresses who supported having their wages cut. That's really bizarre and raises the question, is Save Our Tips an AstroTurfed organization? A fake grassroots organization meant to be a front for a lobbying organization? In this case, the Arizona Restaurant Association? Well, I don't have any secret documents or bank statements that would prove it 100%, but I think so. So I'll lay out my evidence that I've gathered from research, which includes a larger amount of time being on LinkedIn than you would have thought. Anyway, 3 people from Save Our Tips testified at the hearing, and all 3 are connected to the Arizona Restaurant Association Board of Directors. This guy is connected to the Arizona Restaurant Association by his job. He works at the White Chocolate Grill. The White Chocolate Grill was co-founded by a former chairman of the Board of Directors of the Arizona Restaurant Association, Bobby Fitzgerald. This person also testified. She works at Streets of New York, a pizza place in Arizona. Streets of New York is owned by the vice chairwoman of the Arizona Restaurant Association Board of Directors, Lori Glazer. I'd also like to point out that neither of these people are at an entry-level position at their job. One of them is a head server and the other is an assistant manager. So what we have here are 2 people in management positions with pretty close connections to the Arizona Restaurant Association Board of Directors, who are also part of Save Our Tips. That on its own is a little suspicious, but it's not direct proof of a link with the Arizona Restaurant Association. For that, you'd have to go to the 3rd witness, Beth Cochran, the fake waitress promised in the opening.
Thank you. My name is Beth Cochran. I'm with Snooze AM Eatery. I have been in Arizona for over 30 years. I actually started P.F. Chang's China Bistro. I have a very unique perspective because I've been an hourly employee as well as now on the management side.
I won't make you wait. Beth's connection to the Arizona Restaurant Association Board of Directors is that she's actually on the Board of Directors. She's been a member since 2019. And according to her LinkedIn page, she's also the Regional VP for Snooze Eatery. I told you I did some research on LinkedIn. Now, I'm sure all of you are eager to see the footage of Vice President Beth testifying about how workers need to be paid less, especially the part where she has to answer questions, but that didn't happen. It didn't happen because Beth didn't disclose her job title or her position on the Board of Directors. To be clear, in her testimony, she hedges her words very carefully. She doesn't go off telling wild tales about how she's currently a waitress. Most of her testimony stays in safe territory where she praises the restaurant industry and talks about how good restaurants treat people. And as you saw, she even said she was on the management side, which, if you are feeling super generous, could even count as partial disclosure. But the effect of her Save Our Tips shirt, and being among people who could plausibly be called waiters and waitresses, gave the impression that she is a waitress. Especially since she didn't disclose that she is actually the vice president of a company, or on the Arizona Restaurant Association Board of Directors. Also, if you are testifying as a member of Save Our Tips, it really implies that you are someone who gets tips. You know, a waitress. So the committee treated her like she was a real waitress.
Have you ever heard your managers talk about profit margins for your restaurants, and how slim they are? I mean, have you ever heard those discussions?
Well, that's a normal question to ask if you think she's a waitress and might not hear about profit margins on a regular basis. It's not a normal question if you think she's a vice president of a company. I mean, that's kind of their job. They should be talking about profit margins with their managers if they are a vice president. Safe to say, the committee members were fooled by her act. So a member of the board of directors of the Arizona Restaurant Association, under misleading pretenses, representing what is supposed to be an independent grassroots organization, testified in favor of a bill to cut wages for waiters and waitresses without disclosing that connection. I think that's a pretty good reason to believe that Save Our Tips is nothing more than an AstroTurf organization for the Arizona Restaurant Association. So why does Save Our Tips exist? I mean, again, I don't have any secret documents, but from the hearing I watched, it seems like they serve two purposes. One, it gives the Arizona Restaurant Association Chief Operating Officer someone to point to and say, yes, listen to those workers.
I'm just trying to keep it short. I think that you really should just listen to the workers that are here, right? And I know that you've heard from a couple that were on the other side.
Because if Save Our Tips didn't exist, the only people testifying in favor of the bill to cut wages would be the Arizona Restaurant Association, and that would look really bad. That's reason number one. Reason number two is to give Republican supporters on the committee of SCR 1040 a way to go on the offensive. When I said other people showed up to testify on this bill, I meant union workers showed up. Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport hospitality workers are unionized, and that includes waiters and waitresses. So when they showed up to testify, they were greeted with this.
I'm not necessarily convinced that the testimony provided by the unionized airport workers was compelling to me. I would want to hear from the people that are going to be most affected.
It seems to me that except for some of the unions and activist groups that have spoken, it's clear the employees are happy with the situation as it is and want this bill, and the employers want this bill.
I do think that the airport is different than all of the other restaurants, and I understand that Ms. Hornstein was standing up for everybody else, although they were shaking their head and they didn't want you to stand up for them because they're very happy with their current state of play.
Yeah, the Republicans on the committee said the union workers weren't real waiters and waitresses, because they worked at the airport and were unionized. Which, when you know that the Save Our Tips people were being led by a member of the board of directors of the Arizona Restaurant Association, looks really bad. But not as bad as what came next. After telling the union workers they weren't real waiters and waitresses, the Republicans topped that off by telling them that if they didn't like the bill that was being rammed through, they should all quit.
As far as I know, people are not being coerced to do their jobs. Maybe they are. I don't think so.
Because if you don't like the guy, don't work there. If you're not making enough money doing your tips or getting to the tips, don't work there. You can go somewhere else and make a lot of money.
To folks that complain about their situations, just like in the movie A Knight's Tale, you can change your own stars. You don't have to keep doing what you're doing, kids.
Keep in mind that while these self-important rants were going on, Republicans were also gesturing at the Save Our Tips people and saying that they are the real workers, not those dirty union people, oblivious to the fact that their supposed grassroots worker organization is being led by the vice president of a restaurant chain. Finally, when one of the Democrats on the committee spoke up and denounced this lobbyist-led effort to cut wages, the committee chairman put his foot down and let it be known he is to be taken seriously.
The next thing, the striker pushed by lobbyists. Apparently not the chairman of this committee. I would warn people on this committee to not impugn, directly or otherwise, their motives on running a striker. That's just everybody that can hear me.
Yeah, that's the guy who was just quoting A Knight's Tale issuing veiled threats. Hey, nitwit, lobbyists don't run your committee? Then why'd you let them run their Astroturfed organization through your committee hearing? Maybe you should direct your anger at the people that made you look like the biggest mark on Earth. And just as a way to kick this clown when he's down, if you don't want people to think your committee is for sale, maybe you shouldn't use auctioneer terminology whenever you bang your gavel.
Okay, that's it. 1, 2, 3 sold. 1, 2, 3 sold. Okay.
Just a thought. This video was supposed to be about more than an AstroTurf organization. It was supposed to be about a cut to the minimum wage for waiters and waitresses in Arizona. But then it spiraled out of control when just Googling the names of the people testifying exposed Beth Cochran as a board member. And keep in mind, the Arizona Restaurant Association went through all of this subterfuge in service of paying their employees less. In the interests of full disclosure, I'm going to post all of Beth Cochran's testimony at the end of this video, so you can watch for yourself if you have any doubts. I've also linked to the entire hearing in the description. I wouldn't want anyone to say I wasn't being upfront. One more thing before I close up shop on this video. I reached out to everyone on the committee and several of the people who testified to see if they had anything to say. Except the Arizona Restaurant Association, because liars don't get asked for comment. Representative Ortiz said that she was deeply concerned, and if she had known who Beth Cochran was during the hearing, she would have had a lot more questions. Ben Shield of Opportunity Arizona, who testified against the bill, answered my email rather quickly, although I don't think he read my email. It feels kind of for me. People are busy. I get it. No one else responded. This is History Sock, and I'll see you at the next committee meeting.
Next.
Beth Cochran?
All right, so you know this field. Tell us who you are and who you're with, and we'll give you 2 minutes to start.
Thank you. My name is Beth Cochran. I'm with Snooze AM Eatery. I have been in Arizona for over 30 years. I actually started P.F. Chang's China Bistro. I have a very unique perspective because I've been an hourly employee as well as now on the management side. The margins that restaurants have to face, two biggest areas are labor and cost of goods. The amount of dollars spent to be able to hire the best of the best, train the best of the best, keep and retain the best of the best are those, just like Jamie was saying, I have seen multiple examples of people that have made the hospitality industry their career as a career rather than going through the normal stages. And we have such a unique industry that allows transient employees to come in and come out of it at any given time. We all battled through COVID. Fortunately, restaurants, because of our tenacity, our ability and our agility to be able to survive and take care of our employees and our staff, the amount of money that the tipped income worker makes is far above minimum wage. There is no other industry that can give you that upward mobility and opportunity to have such an income that you would not get it in frankly, any other industry. Our average servers work maybe 6 hours. They can make $150 in tips, and plus their $11.35 per hour. That's $86 would be without that tip. So you're talking a difference of $218 take home
10
or
seconds,
$86 take home. I mean, it is like I said, the reason that people come in and have families and they're the opportunity for people to be able to.
Time.
Thank
Sorry,
you, ma'am.
time, sorry. I could keep going.
No, a lot of people, I just want to make sure everybody gets their voice heard. Thank you. Have you ever heard your managers talk about profit margins for your restaurants, like, and how slim they are? I mean, have you ever heard those discussions?
Absolutely.
And what are some of the things you've heard over the years?
We have
in
to
that
be
respect?
very creative with scheduling. We have to be very laser focused on every hours of income coming in to the restaurant to be able to manage the labor piece. And it is quite something. We have to be very agile to be able to keep the workforce that we do.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Mr. Hendricks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question's for you and anybody else that gets up to speak, if you want to comment on this question as well. I listened to the first speaker. I think you guys heard him speak. I used to own a couple of restaurants, so I'm from the other side. And as I'm listening to the undercurrent here, it seems to be an undercurrent of this evil business owner who wants to take advantage of his employee, and that the only thing at stake here is how we can make more profit for the business, preferably at the expense of the server. And one of the many false comments that the first speaker made was he alluded to when a customer walks off and doesn't pay the bill. And his comment was that most commonly is paid by the server. And I haven't owned a lot of restaurants, but I have owned 3 small restaurants. I can say with absolute certainty that no server in my restaurant ever paid for anything lost in my restaurant, whether it was food shrinkage, supply shrinkage, theft of a mop, somebody walk off without paying the bill. I never ever had a server pay for anything. If anything, I paid them extra if we had a slow day. And I guess I'd just like you to comment. Many of you have been servers, you have worked in the industry. You surely must have heard if some of your coworkers or even people at another restaurant are, as the first speaker said, commonly paying the bill for people that don't pay their own bill. And I guess I'd like to just know for my own information, because this never happened in my restaurant, ever. It's impossible. Is this a problem? Have you seen this? And as others of you speak, if it is, I guess I'm just curious, because if all of these restaurant owners are this evil, and I'm the exception, I want to know.
Never in my 30 years, and I've worked for P.F. Chang's China Bistro, I've worked for Paradise Bakery and Cafe, I've worked for Guy and Larry Restaurants, I worked for Snooze. We would never charge an employee for the cost of a walkout of a guest or a broken plate or a broken glass. That is not how the industry works.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your testimony. We'll move on, Mr. Vice Chair.